Good morning and welcome to the Soprema Senior Center, where we are so excited for the program this morning. We are honored to present Java and Justice with our Wadsworth judge, Susana Lewis, our first woman judge in the history of Wadsworth. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Thank you so much. Well, first I just want to say thank you so much for having me here today. It's truly an absolute honor and privilege for me to be talking to you today. And really my hope is to give you some information about me, getting to know me as the judge of your court. I think that's extremely important. But also to give you a little bit of information about the court itself. And so first thing I want to say is the last time that I was in this room presenting was very nerve-wracking. It was a candidates night, and we were all right here. And you know, although I was new to the bench in Wadsworth, I was on the bench, so to speak, in the court at Medina County. I was a juvenile and probate magistrate. I was actually the chief magistrate there for 18 years. And I felt like I really knew every single person. But yet, coming and running as judge of this court presented me with a new opportunity and a new challenge. And the last time when I sat at that, right there with all these individuals who were running for election and I running too, I gotta tell you, it's a different experience. For me in particular, it was unique in that I'm not really the kind of person that really likes to talk about themselves a whole lot. But when you're running for office, you have to, because the voters have the absolute, they have to know who you are. Otherwise, how can they really truly decide? So anyway, I'm really enjoying my time here today. And I did enjoy my time. It's nerve-wracking. A little funny anecdote to that. I can't remember the exact minute, but I know I had it wrong. So I had to write a speech, and I was only given a very short window because there's so many people. And so I thought I had, I want to say it was 5 minutes, but then I reread the email, and it said I had like 3 minutes. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And you have to get your talking points in. And I had to like, oh my gosh, hurry and like chop it up. And I did, but it worked out. Anyway, that's just a little side note. Anyway, thank you so much to Soprema Center for having me today. Thank you, and I'm so happy to meet every one of you today, and just want to tell you a little bit about myself. Maybe you were here that night, in my 3 minutes or 2.5, whatever I had to chop, you probably didn't. But maybe you looked online or what have you. But in any case, I want to tell you a little bit about me. First, I want to tell you that I have been the judge of the Wadsworth Municipal Court for about a year. I took the bench in January of 2024. I was elected in November of 2023. So it's my first full year, and I had just asked Lori, am I still allowed to call myself the new judge? She's like, absolutely yes. Well, Judge McIlvain, that I succeeded, had been on the bench over 25 years, so I think I'm still the newbie there. That being said, just kind of going backwards a little ways, prior to my time on the bench here in Wadsworth Municipal Court, I served as the chief magistrate of the Medina County Court of Common Pleas, juvenile and probate division. So basically, what my job really entailed for many years at the court, for 18 years, was to preside over juvenile delinquency matters. So juvenile delinquency matters are a type of case, really crimes committed by a child. We don't call them crimes, we call them delinquencies, but it means really it's the same word. In fact, I saw a gentleman here who I worked very closely with, Mr. Ron Stoller, who at the time that I was there for all those years headed up the Juvenile Detention Center, an extremely difficult job, and he did an amazing job. So shout out to Ron, and thank you for being here today, because you really did a great job all those years. No matter how long you work there, no matter how long you're there, it is a very difficult situation to actually be part of a situation where maybe a child is in dire straits for whatever reason. Ending up in the juvenile system is hard, and we really did a lot of interventions at that time. Also, as juvenile, like working in this arena and as a chief magistrate, I did a lot of the administrative stuff for the court. So I was very much partnering with the judge of the court. Some of you may know Judge Dunn, and prior to that it was Judge Lone that I worked for. So I did a lot of the administrative side, as well as I was on the bench for all those years. And prior to taking the bench in juvenile court, I was a Summit County prosecutor for approximately 11 years. And I also worked in the area of children's services in Stark County right out of law school. So my career has really always been in government service and public service. And I've had a lengthy career. I've been very, very blessed in that regard. So just to give you a little bit more background about myself, my husband, Greg, back, no heckling, and I moved to Wadsworth. Really, when we got married, we met in law school. I was in law school, and we actually got fixed up on a kind of a blind date kind of thing. But after we got married, we had young children. We were living in Akron, and we really wanted to find like a great place to raise our family. We looked around all over the place, and we decided, we knew there was a lady that worked at Akron U with my husband, and she lived in Seville, and she would bring in the Trading Post, and we would look at stuff, and we loved it here. We came out, it was just small enough, kind enough, you know. We all know the feeling, right? So we know what it is. It's unique. It's Mayberry, and it's growing Mayberry, but it's beautiful, and we couldn't have been happier to raise our kids here, to have both of our children go through Wadsworth City schools from the time that they were in kindergarten to graduation, and the school system served them so well. They went on to go to college and pursue advanced degrees, and what they learned in our schools was, and they're not, just their education was second to none. I always felt like it was a private school and a public school. I could not get over the fact that my son actually went to school, had math classes, he had some advanced math classes, and the same two teachers really taught him throughout high school. Like, they took the kids through the years. I don't know if that's still happening. Mrs. North was one of the teachers, but it was like very unique. And they both got a great education. Going a little bit further back, I actually grew up in New York City and in New Jersey. My mom and my dad and my sister and I, we immigrated here. I am a first-generation immigrant, and we immigrated here from Buenos Aires, Argentina, which is where the Pope is from, if anybody knows. We lost the Pope from the same place. At the time of like the big migrations all over, a lot of people in the like 20s and 30s, kind of like the Pope and also my family, a lot of people migrated out of like Italy and Spain and these areas, and they went to America. And many people went to Argentina, where I'm from. So in any case, going kind of back, like I said, I was born in Argentina, and this is kind of interesting. English is actually my second language, and I am fluent in Spanish because I got to learn Spanish from being a kid, growing up in a household where that's what they spoke. We came to the United States, I was 4, and my sister was 9. I'm sure it was tougher for her, but in any event, I learned English. My mom's like, oh, you learned it in a week, but I don't know how she knew that because she really didn't speak English that good. My mom is a seamstress by trade. She learned how to be a seamstress in Argentina, which, by the way, when we talk about, and I used to think about this all the time in juvenile court, opportunities for education. My parents had very limited opportunities for education. It's a whole different world. We are beyond blessed to live in the United States and the opportunities that we have here. But she was a seamstress, and my dad was a jeweler. He became a jeweler. He came first I think he went to Puerto Rico, got a visa to work as a jeweler, had a job opportunity in New York. They called for him, and then he got a green card for us, and then we all went, and we met in New York, and we were little kids, and that's where we grew up. So I just want to give you a little bit of background. To let you know, what's kind of unique is there are not very many people that I guess you could identify as being Latin American. There are very few of us on the bench. I believe I am one of 5 in the entire state of Ohio. And as a first woman, female here in Wadsworth, I want to thank the voters to trust me and trust me with this opportunity and pave the way for others. When I say that, I also want to mention I just want people to really dream big. That is always my message. I worked with kids forever. We created a program known as Teen Court in the court at Medina County Juvenile Court. And really my message was always to really dream big. Look beyond what you think you're capable of doing and try. Because you may not make it, but if you do, you're going to pave the way for someone else to dream big too, right? I say this all the time, probably the very last person that I could have imagined to be before a group of people telling them that I'm a judge. I never saw myself that way. I had a person I met when I was in college that encouraged me to take the LSAT, which is a law school entrance exam. I didn't really see myself like that. I thought that was for someone else, especially when you come as a first generation person. You don't really see that. But, I guess the idea here is that with hard work and perseverance, you're capable of anything, right? You can do whatever. And even if you don't make it to the point or the place where you're trying to get to, it's so beneficial to try. It's so good to just push yourself, and I did when I ran. I'm just letting you know. That was the first time I ran for office, and I had to talk about myself, and it was hard. I was nervous, but it's okay, because you know what? I'm an inherently shy person. It doesn't seem like it, but I always have pushed that. Try to push away from that. We all do. We all have to dig down deep for whatever we do, whatever our roles in life are. And it's just truly an amazing opportunity to stand before you. I will never, ever get over it. I will be humbled until the day I die. I wanted to tell you a little bit about this annual report. I left one copy at the table, but I want to tell you that in talking to you kind of less about myself and now more about the court, every court in the state of Ohio, and this, by the way, if you don't have a copy and you want to see it, you can look online you can look it up on your cell phone. If you go to wadsworthmunicipalcourt.com, you'll see the 24 annual report. Now this is the report from last year, okay? So you have to create the report, every court in Ohio, to report on all the things that are happening in court, whether it's financial, administrative, and the like. So every year Judge McElvain did a report, and then this is the first year that was my year. Even though I presented last year, it was really the judge's report from the prior year. In speaking about Judge McElvain, I want to say that I'm honored to follow in his footsteps. He was a trusted servant for so many years to our city, and he also is kind enough to come in to court, and times when I'm here, he'll sub in for me. Because in our court, in the Wadsworth Municipal Court, it's really small. It's a one judge, and there's no magistrates court. Like in my old court, there was like a judge and there were 4 magistrates, so we could always back each other up. But here, when you're out or there's an issue, then what happens is that you have to get a visiting judge or an acting judge, someone in the community who has some training that can fill in for you. So like for me to do stuff like this, I have to get a judge, and a lot of times he'll cover for me, which is great. So in any case, to tell you a little bit about 2024. So when you take the bench as a new judge, right, and I don't care what job you hold, it could be any single job, there's going to be a little bit of a curve there. You're going to have to learn the ropes here. What I will tell you was, to me, the most different between being on the bench in juvenile court and being on the bench in municipal court is really the speed of it all. It's fast. It's a fast moving environment. It's not intimate like juvenile court where you just have a couple people. In fact, it is entirely public. So to that end, I want to, before I forget, invite you guys to come and see the court firsthand anytime you want, because it's completely open to the public. You can sit if you're interested, you can observe and just see for yourself what happens in a court. Might be helpful. I learned this when I was running, and it is true. Most people that actually witness an actual court are people that go to a municipal court. It's not most people are not going to the Supreme Court. Most people are not going to Common Pleas Court. But many of us may have occasion, for one reason or another, to go to a municipal court. So the impact of our court to a society, even though municipal court, and I'll tell you the jurisdiction, may not be of, I guess, in terms of hierarchy like a Supreme Court, we're really setting a tone here. And that's really important for me, for people to feel that they can trust your court, that the information and the know-how of the judicial system is there, how people are treated, that their needs are met in a way that makes sense. And also, in a municipal court, just like in any other court, we see people with a lot of strife in their life, and we encounter them. And I'll tell you about statistics in a little bit. But you have to have an idea how to address that, and you've got to do that in a way that is truly grounded in your community. So we're very important in my mind to the perception, not just of our court in our city, but the legal and judicial environment overall. And I'm highly cognizant of that. It's what I strive to do, is to be the very best public servant that I can be, with the highest level of integrity and honesty and competence. But as I went back to, as a new judge, there's a curve and you're learning, and there's a lot of things that you have to maneuver and things you do. So the administrative piece of it, as well as being on the bench, being the only judge, basically I am on the bench every single day, okay? In terms of some of the things that we looked at, there were just some things, Supreme Court standards. So the Supreme Court of Ohio set standards as to how long a case can remain pending before it is completed or disposed of. We looked at that. We looked at ways to make some processes more streamlined. So jury trials, we didn't have really pre-trials, but we implemented a system so that we weren't kind of figuring it out last minute. If anybody's going to come in and be a juror, we should know well in advance that a jury is going to be canceled. So we try to do that with the lawyers. Also in the beginning, just to get for the lawyers to meet me and have a better idea. Think about it. You're a lawyer practicing in Wadsworth Municipal Court. You've been in front of Judge McIlvain for 25 years. It could be longer, right? All of a sudden I jump into the picture. Lawyers, even though they knew me, and most of them kind of circulate around, like whether it's juvenile, probate, or here, some didn't. And they needed an expectation. They needed to know what my expectations were of them, and vice versa, right? So that was kind of helpful. We met early on. I met with the Bar Association. We talked about things. I like to talk to groups of people, and I kind of did a little bit of outreach. But in any case, one of the things to know is how big the Wadsworth Municipal Court is. Do you think the Wadsworth Municipal Court is really just about, how many people think it just encompasses Wadsworth Township and City? How many people think that? Isn't that interesting? See, it's actually, the Wadsworth Municipal Court is named the Wadsworth Municipal Court, but it encompasses really the southern region of the state, the county. So basically, it stretches, it encompasses the city of Wadsworth, villages of Lodi, Seville, Westfield Center, Gloria Glens, and townships of Wadsworth, Guilford, Harrisville, Westfield, and the really far away one, Township of Homer, Township of Sharon. And our population size is 51,000 people. This is as of the last census. So I think it's surprising for people to learn that, because of the name, you just make an assumption, or maybe it's Sharon, or maybe it's Montville. It's hard to tell, but it's really the southern points. Another thing is to know, and this is kind of like a little detail, so municipal courts have a clerk of court, right? Sometimes they're elected, but that's only when your population size is over 100,000. Our clerk of court is appointed. Cassie Fry's been there for many years, and she's a very experienced individual. So also keep in mind that it's kind of a newer court, right? So we've only had 3 judges. I'm the third. But it's a relatively newer court. Judge Kimbler, who then went on to be on the bench, Judge McIlvain, and myself. In terms of how many people work in the court, it's I have worked in government a long time. I'm just going to say it again. They're the most hardworking, efficient group I've ever seen. There's really only about 10 people that work in the court in the entirety of it, and we process quite a bit of cases. In terms of the jurisdiction and types of cases that are handled in juvenile court, I just want to give you a little bit of an overview of that. So in terms of the types of cases that we see, starting with probably the worst things are felony cases, but that's really up until the point of preliminary hearing. So we'll have an initial appearance on a felony case that is charged within our jurisdiction, and I will set bond. And then there's a preliminary hearing. But if the individual is indicted by a grand jury prior to that preliminary hearing, that can be canceled. Our preliminary hearing is regarding probable cause to continue on and then transfer that case now to the common pleas court, because we don't handle felonies beyond that point. The jurisdiction, and when I say jurisdiction, I don't mean where, like we talked about territorial jurisdiction. This is actually subject matter jurisdiction. Subject matter jurisdiction is really the types of cases that a court can hear. And so criminal, misdemeanor, we talked about felonies, all misdemeanor charges that are criminal, including operating a vehicle under the influence. Obviously that's traffic, but all misdemeanor traffic matters. Also, we have a civil division in our court, small claims division. Also, we do evictions. Very difficult in this day and age, both for landlords and tenants, because you know the housing situation is so tough and it is so costly. In addition to that, we do, in terms of small claims, this is kind of a cool area of law. Small claims court handles cases of $5,000 or less. It anticipates that people that are pro se, meaning without a lawyer, will actually bring their causes to court, or concerns, and they don't need a lawyer. So all these court rules that are highly difficult for a lay person are not in play in a small claims case. So we handle small claims. In addition to that, one really cool thing is we handle weddings. And I will just tell you right now, in 2024, as my first time judge, love was 100% in the air in Wadsworth Municipal Court. I happily married 88 couples, so that was fun. I know! I was so proud of that. They were, and one couple actually videotaped the ceremony all the way into somewhere in Europe. I can't remember. So here we are representing Wadsworth in our court, and we're in Europe. I just thought that was so cool. And they kind of run the gamut. Some people are it's just them, and some people, one time I was like mic'd up, just like today. Like, wow, there was like a lot of pomp and circumstance. So it's very neat. So like what's happening in our court in terms of what are we seeing? What are the trends that we're seeing? I think one of the things that we're seeing is really an uptick in the civil filings. And when I say civil filings, we have the small claims on the civil docket, and then we have civil cases up to $15,000. A lot of times you'll see like cases where people maybe default on their credit cards and things like that, or other causes or controversies. I had a trial recently on just a small claims matter. Forgive me, a civil matter up to $15,000. But those have really gone. Those have really increased. In terms of traffic, we've also seen quite a bit of a traffic increase in 2024 from prior years. And we've seen a slight increase in operating a vehicle under the influence. Now, that being said, we could say, well, wait a minute, that's highly concerning. I feel like I'm giving you my back. I'm going to move this up. We could say, well, that's highly concerning because, oh my gosh, we have more OVIs. But I'd like to look at it as like, maybe this is because we're really enforcing them too. We're really out there patrolling and enforcing. We have a grandmother of a brand new officer here, and we have, and so may I call you out, ma'am? Mrs. Elaine. So Elaine's here, and she's a grandmother of a brand new officer, and we have a lot of newer officers on the force. We're so happy and proud to have that. And Officer Rosbert is new to the area, and I've really enjoyed getting to meet him. and working with him. And so I think, it's like everything else. I think as any job grows with new people, and then it's just, maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's part of like that vigor that a young person brings to a job and invigorates everything. So as they learn, they're also enforcing our laws in a way that is different and even in really positive ways. I guess it's the best way I can say it. That's Cassie up on the screen. That's our clerk. Of course, she's been there for years and years, absolute professional. And I'm not going to go through this because I hate like PowerPoints. I'm not a big fan of those. But you'll see receipts, disbursements, and stuff like that in the report. So in terms of the types of cases that also what happens in court, we have both bench trials. Does anybody know what a bench trial is? Yes? It just means that you've been through that. So bench trial to the judge or a magistrate. But then you have jurisdiction anytime that there's a possibility of jail time. You have the right to have a jury trial. Now, you have to invoke it in writing, but you do have the right to have a jury trial. So my first year, early on, we had 4 jury trials. Bam, bam, bam. It was like pretty quick right after I started. So last year, I think we had 4 jury trials. And those are really, I'll tell you what's really cool about a jury trial. Because I was a magistrate for so long in juvenile court, and I had trials all the time. So in juvenile court, my jurisdiction was from misdemeanor all the way to felony, every level, and traffic. But we didn't have jury trials, although I did as a prosecutor, but we didn't there. And so having a jury trial, one of the neatest things is you really get to see the lawyers at their best, the lawyers at their highest abilities, right? Because, when they're trying something to the judge, it's one thing. But when they're trying something to a jury, it's different for them, in my opinion. But that's kind of neat, and I've really enjoyed that kind of work. But also, last year, I had 99 trials, 99 bench trials. So 4 jury and 99, that's a lot. I'm like, wow, okay. So, and those could be civil as much as they could be traffic, as much as they could be criminal. It runs the gamut. So those are trials that come to me. We have 1 prosecutor assigned to the court by the most part, but the head prosecutor also sometimes comes down and works in the court, but it's generally a 1 prosecutor court. So far, any questions? Okay. Oh, yes.
Back to you alluded to, how many times can a case be delayed before how many times can a case be delayed before you say this is the end?
Well, we don't like delays. Nobody does. And the Supreme Court says you have standards to maintain. A couple things that go into delays. I can't give you an absolute number. I wish I could. I wish I could say 1 delay, bam, it's over. Because really, ideally, in an ideal world, that's what it would be. But the reality is sometimes cases take priority. Like, for instance, if you have a detained person, they have to go before an undetained person. So you have speedy trial rights. The case that has a speedy trial issue must go before the other cases. Sometimes, and this is a biggie, we have attorneys that may be appointed to our cases, and they may be in different courts. When we set cases relatively quickly, we set them. We just can't call every lawyer and check on their docket. So, are you free here? It's not like that. So we're setting. Sometimes they get bumped because of a conflict. To me, ideally, I really feel like if you truly want justice, it can't be delayed, right? Isn't that the old adage, justice delayed is justice denied? So I really try very hard to try to manage it and also appreciate the fact that in our court, we have many court-appointed lawyers. They're also working in the other courts. So they are working in Common Pleas Court and Medina Muni. We're the outlier. So these folks that are on our appointment list that take court appointments, by the most part, are in a lot of different courts. To answer your question, how many times? I would hope not more than 2, but sometimes things could come up. And we do set them quickly. And then there's those layers of the cases that have to take priority for a variety of reasons. Sometimes You may have a situation where you have a warrant that's outstanding. Somebody took off, they didn't come to court, there's a warrant outstanding. So now when you set the case, it looks like a really old case, but really it's been inactive for all that whole time. So that's happened. There's a lot of warrants that I'd like to get to, like just try to see if we can kind of come up with some way to kind of bring folks forward and get their cases accomplished. Because I've seen it, it happens all the time where you may have an outstanding warrant on something very simple that somebody didn't show up for, and all of a sudden it's 5 years later down the line, they get arrested when they're stopped for a traffic ticket, and now they're in jail. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, you gotta take care of it. Sometimes to aid in continuances and moving the docket forward, I will allow people to come by Zoom. Remember that we have people that are coming through 71 from different states, and we do traffic. So if I can at least get them on by Zoom, at least preliminary stuff that I need to take care of with them, I let them. The Supreme Court permits that. It feels foreign, and I'm going to tell you, it runs the gamut. Some people do not like it. Some judges are completely against anything Zoom. Some are in the middle, and some really like it. So a Zoom hearing, kind of Jetson-ish. The Supreme Court allows for it. Otherwise, obviously, no one could do that. But to keep your docket moving, because the other thing about a docket, this is a good question. The thing about a docket is when you have a lot of continuances, it also blurs up your docket. So the people that are in line, that's why you have the Supreme Court standards. You want to get people to their ultimate decision in a timely way. But if you're continue, umpteen cases, what's happening is you're eating up your docket. So now this person here is now scheduled out much further. So in trying to maintain that docket, that is a big deal for me. And I used to do that in juvenile court. I was very much on top of the docket there. I was kind of somewhat in charge of all of the magistrates' schedule. We set the schedule and we followed the Supreme Court standards. So I hope that answered it, maybe too much, but anything else? Oh, I love questions. I don't have to keep talking. Yes?
Yes, I'm looking at these numbers
Yeah.
about the cases.
Yep.
Here, we'll bring the mic to the question.
Right here. Oh, there you are. Yes, I'm looking at the numbers.
Which one, what page?
Page 9.
Okay.
And it appears, if I'm reading it right,
Yep.
that it's over 4,000 cases last year.
Yeah,
That's a lot of cases.
yes.
Okay.
But now, I wanted a caveat to that. Think about it. Has anybody, you don't even have to show hands, because I know a gentleman in the back could raise his hand. Anyone here, just kidding, that's my husband. Anyone here could ever say they got a traffic ticket? Yeah, traffic ticket, right? Like maybe a speeding ticket or a little fender bender. So you don't have to come to court for those. So you might have a case, it's a traffic case, I won't see you. So I'm not juggling that many cases where I'm seeing you, right? But I'm telling you, my docket was booked. It was a very highly fast-moving docket in 2024. And, we kind of, as a new judge, you've got a bunch of admin stuff too, so there's a little bit of a juggle. I will tell you this, as a brand new judge, I felt like this is the only time I really felt that I worked this hard was my first year law school, where I was like, oh, it just felt like that. It just felt like a lot, but it was great. The beautiful thing about being my age too is you can work really hard and you can work a lot of overtime hours. My children are grown. My kids are 29 and 30. I'm 31, 29 and 31. So I don't have little kids at home. I'm okay to work over. The beautiful part about now technology, you can work on the weekends from home. You don't have to run to work, but the most beautiful part about that for me is I am exactly 7 minutes from the office. Oh my gosh. It is the greatest thing ever. I'm 7 minutes from my office to my front door and back. So even if I did go in, it's no big deal. Whereas before, like if I had to go into Medina, it took me 20 minutes there and then 20 minutes home. In the winter, it was rough. So that's really cool. Anything else?
Yes, I got, you said there was like 56,000 people in the area.
Yeah. That's the
How
census.
much-
That's a census from what did I say? 2020. It's an older census, but it's the most updated one. Yeah.
How much of that would be Wadsworth?
I had broke it down for you.
I didn't see that.
I'll tell you the page. I wanted to see it too, because I thought this is so interesting. Wadsworth, I want to say, is the biggest, right? Yep. Yeah. Page 4, I think Wadsworth is a 100% by a mile. It's the biggest, 24,986, 2020 U.S. Census, 24,986. And the smallest jurisdiction is Village of Gloria Glens Park at 369 people. Yep.
Okay, one more and then I'll.
No, please ask me questions. I like questions.
Nobody's ever given me these, but when you get your rights read to you, in the last ones, you won't have an attorney, one will be appointed for you.
Yes.
How do you base that on, the attorney?
Yes, of course. Now remember, you have the right to have an attorney appointed when your freedom can be taken. It's not across the board, right? It's when there's a possibility of jail time. So start with that first notion. Then it's based upon public defender standards. So the public defender statewide sets forth for one person, I can tell you what it is for one. For a one-person household, your gross income is $24,986. For a two, it's somewhere like, it could be 24. So now you're looking at how many people in your household to make that determination. The fee that the court-appointed counsel charges the court, this is statewide, I want to say it's $75 an hour for in or out of court. That's a state-approved public defender fund. It doesn't sound so bad, but when you consider overhead, many lawyers will tell you they just can't take court-appointed lawyers and meet their cases and meet their overhead. So our pool is small, even across the United States. And I can send you the whole breakdown if you want. Or you can even Google it. I'll find it for you before I leave. But throughout the entire state of Ohio, there is just a shortage of people that will take court-appointed cases. And that's tough for courts because our lists are small. We are currently recruiting maybe some of the younger folks to come to the court. Just because I worked with just younger people, I always like to at least provide some level of training or mentorship to young lawyers. For whatever reason, for years and years, well, I know the reason. Juvenile court is a starting point. We've had historically new lawyers come through juvenile court. And so I'm really used to that. And so I always welcome the newer lawyers coming through, hope to get more. You wouldn't think you'd have a shortage with Akron U being right there, but sure enough, there's a shortage of sometimes court-appointed lawyers. Yeah. Oh. Yep. One sec, I'll be right back.
Okay, on your docket, how do you arrange your time daily? And if you have a case that you have to do again in a month or 6 months or whatever, how do you
Do that.
judge that out and apportion your time? Because I don't know how many you hear a day or can hear a day. Probably some are fast, but then some aren't.
Yeah.
So how do you know when they come in, what category they fit into? Or is that your personal judgment of this is a traffic ticket, so you'll know that, or whatever?
Right. Well, so in all courts, they have a person that is, their job is assignment commissioner. So they set your cases. So how do we set them? There's a little bit of a protocol that I've followed that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, those are jury trial days. But because we've now put in pre-trials, they do get kind of eaten up too. But by the most part, we do have some set things that are on the docket, like anybody who gets arrested the night before and has not bonded out, I see them at 11 o'clock every morning, so I determine their bond. And I also we do sentencings 2 days a week on Mondays and Wednesdays and sometimes Fridays. Arraignments every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8:30 a.m., irrespective of how many tickets are given to a person. If you've ever been cited as an adult with a traffic citation, you know the officer will give you a ticket and it'll give you the date right on there. So that populates into my world, right? So it used to be we did arraignments 2 days a week, but we added a third day to try to streamline it, because not just because of me handling it. That's just one little cog in the wheel here. It's me doing them in court, a giant group of people in the courtroom that would like to get on their way, right? And then the clerk checking people out. Now, So now you see that kind of, there's your framework. Around there, around the like static framework is truly how we build in the trials and we build in, and how do you account for how long it will take? I don't know, it just works, but it is super, if you look at the court's docket, you'll be shocked. And you can pull it up online by date, but somehow or another it works, but you're in motion, okay? Unlike juvenile court, I will tell you, we would set hearings for a half hour, and we would bring people in, and we would have time to do it that way. This is a different thing. But you can never go too fast. You have to balance it all out. Somehow it works where a lot of times maybe something that is set for trial, maybe somebody changes their plea. So that one goes away, whereas the other one comes back in. And we're looking at time standards.
Well, how do you call the end of your day? I mean, you don't just look at it and say it's 5 o'clock, I'm going home.
No,
So
I get done.
is that-
I get done in time. It is a rare, I do, I get done in time. However, sometimes you don't get done in time when you have a jury trial. Because if your jury is deliberating and they would rather just go a little bit longer, but we don't let them go forever either. That's just too much for people to just sit there in that room. But we will go over then, and those times we go over for sure. I hope that answered, but if you're ever interested to look at the docket, everything is so online. You could, if you go to Wadsworth Municipal Court, it's all public. You click on it and it says court schedule. You're going to be shocked. I will tell you, there's been a big enforcement for everybody in the room. I know you don't text and drive. I couldn't if I wanted to because I'm just not that multifaceted that I could do some. I cannot do that. But there's been a huge enforcement effort. And in that huge enforcement effort, we have had so many people in court that the other day, I want to say a week or so ago, we had so many tickets. I had to have our courtroom, if you've ever seen it, completely full, including the jury box and counsel table. And then I had to put people in the counsel chambers because they couldn't fit. And so they would be escorted kind of in as some people would leave, some people would leave. But it was, I'm telling you what, we only have one courtroom. That's it. And that's that presents a little bit of a problem for me. If I have to do that, there's certain things I have to go over with people. And, you know, it wasn't on the record in the one room, but then I made a record of it not being on the record. But I couldn't fit them anywhere. Seriously, I had to put them in. So hopefully they're spreading those out. And we have one question over here. And I don't even know what time I have. How much time?
If you want to see a court case, do you have to be there at a certain time?
No.
Now, if it's already active, can you go in, or
Yeah,
do you have
just
to wait till a certain time? Or what?
because things are going so fast, it's really hard for you to even think about like trying to come in. I would say if it's a jury trial day, you can still come in, just be quiet, obviously, when you go in. If you're going to go in and observe, though, because we won't know, just let the clerk know you're just observing. That just helps. You don't have to tell us that, because you can always just walk in and observe. It just helps me. If I see somebody walk in the room and I have like 5 people, I keep thinking they're waiting for their lawyer or something. It just helps me know if I need to help you. But no, you can come in. Most of the time, it's not going to be a jury trial. Just come in. Just let the clerk know. Just say, hey, I'm just here to observe. Because we're going to assume, sometimes if you have a trial, the other thing that we could assume is there's a standing order of separation of witnesses so that one witness isn't hearing what the other witness is saying. And if like somebody walks in the middle of a trial, I might think, oh, geez, is this a witness? Because it could happen. And so if you just tell us, we all communicate. We have this little like chat feature on, which is super cool. And so I know that you're just there observing. But come anytime. I mean it. And if you do come, say hi. Just say, the judge said stop by. I'd love to say hi.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I would love for you to see it. This is an important year for the court. They're really wanting us to do some programming to really bring people into the court and let them know what is involved, and really see it firsthand, because it's going to be different than you think. I love these questions because I don't have to worry about talking so much. Thank you. Whew, keep them coming.
2 questions.
Okay.
One is, where is the court and what floor is it on?
Okay, so the court is 120 Maple Street, which is right on, well, the corner is Maple Street, but it's the big municipal building where the mayor is, right here.
City Hall?
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. And it's right on the ground level. Thank you for saying that, because, that's where it is. It's City Hall. Thank you, everybody.
The other question is there a maximum age to be a juror? Or is there an age when we're allowed to not be a juror if we don't want to be a juror?
Yeah, you can be excused. You can be excused if you feel like you can't, a maximum age or what have you. There could be different excuses for that. But I am telling you, it is my dream to be a juror. Every time I've tried to be a juror, I get kicked off. There's nothing cooler than being a juror. A juror. It's a great opportunity. Oh my gosh. Have you ever been called? How many here have been ever called for jury duty? Wow. How many served on a jury? Wow. Here? So you know.
Here and Medina, both.
And Medina. Did you guys, just by a show of hands, how many people had a positive experience? A positive experience being a juror? Okay, good. I did? No. Oh. Okay. I always got kicked off a jury, but that's fun. Did you have any other questions?
Thank you.
Of course.
I grew up in the 50s and 60s in Richland County, and our juvenile judge was Judge Arbaugh. And nobody wanted to see Judge Arbaugh the second time. Were you the same way?
Well,
He scared the pants off of some tough guys.
so it's interesting because I'm trying to think back in the 50s, what did juvenile justice look like? I've trained a ton on juvenile justice in my day, and I have to admit I miss those kids like crazy. I don't know. I'd have to probably say no. I did see kids back in court. Did I try to scare them? I would try to be very realistic with them, but I also really wanted to address their need. There was a big need and a lot of drugs and some severe mental health and some issues in parenting. We tried to really look at those things. I don't think I was ever a soft sell, but I can tell you right now, I think I had their respect. I now see kids in adult court that I had in juvenile court, and it's crushing. I had one kid recently that I saw, he ended up in prison. It's hard. Juvenile justice started in juvenile rights. True juvenile rights started in the 60s. I don't know if you guys know this. And Ron's like, please no, cut her off. There was a Supreme Court case in Ray Galt. In 1960, that gave rights to kids that adults have. Not the right to have a jury trial unless you're bound over, but like right to confront your accusers, right to have a trial, right to remain silent, right to have a lawyer, right of appeal. It started in the 60s. So in the 50s, that if you went to court in the 50s, there were no real rights per se. And every court did it their way. And then this case came down the pike. So it was about a kid who I used to train everybody about, this Jerry Galt kid. And he was very young, and he made a prank phone call, and he got shipped to a workhouse until he was 21. I could talk to, one day if you want me to talk to you about it, we'll come back, because it will take me a long time. And we are getting short, but he did. And basically, what I always remember the ruling was, like the mere being a child does not excuse a kangaroo court. Not to say that, I'm not saying that about Richmond. I'm just saying there was just across the board, it's whatever which way. And that kid, whatever he did, there were no witnesses, there was no appeals process, there was nothing he could do. And his case made its way all the way up to the United States Supreme Court, and they reversed it. And they said, no, kids have to have some rights. They don't have every single right. They don't have you don't have the right to have a jury trial, so we don't have that. But you do have the right to have a lawyer, and you have the right to confront your accusers and things like that. And it was, I will say that I'll give a plug to Amelia Lewis, because I always do, and Ron's like, please stop. Okay, so Amelia Lewis was a lady who was one of the very first lawyers in the country. She actually graduated with Sandra Day O'Connor. She took that case on. These people were poor, they were minors, they had nothing. Sandra Day O'Connor graduated with her, but it was Amelia Lewis who took that case on and that cause. She didn't take it all the way up to the Supreme Court. She took it just so far. She was an immigrant. She was a Jewish immigrant from a very poor family who made her way to law school. She was like a Girl Friday. They encouraged her. It's just a beautiful story. It's a beautiful story of people that can change the world, every single one of us. I don't have a ton more time, but I do want to tell you guys one last thing. And I'll stay later because whenever you want. I don't know how long. Do I have until 11, Lori? I wasn't sure. Okay. I do want to tell you about one thing that's been kind of a really positive change, in my opinion, at the court. So when I first started, we put together, and now there was previously a security advisory committee. A security advisory committee is another one of those mandatory things through the Supreme Court of Ohio. So in our court in the entire state, we have these rules. They're called superintendent's rules. What they are the rules that govern the court. Otherwise, courts do whatever they want. So just like for people, just like for cases, actually, courts are governed by a set of rules, and they're called the rules of superintendents. That's where you get your Supreme Court standards. Remember I told you your time standards to keep cases moving. So right within those rules is also security standards. So to that end, we convened, you're required to, people from different areas that are important to really address security in the court. So we're talking about police and emergency management, and prosecutor, local counsel, really someone from every single sect as needed. And they gave us recommendations for security. And so that first year in office that I had, I worked very, very hard to put together, and it is a lot of different aspects of it to put together really a central checkpoint. We don't have a central checkpoint. We didn't at that point. For people coming to the court, you just walk in. So we didn't have a metal detector or screening wands. We didn't have a person there. So people could walk in. Now, people love that because it feels nice. It feels, it feels kind of comforting to go to a place without it. But because I'm the judge there now, I felt an obligation to really strengthen that because I'm concerned. I just have a concern about people with severe mental health or people who may be victims of domestic violence, Marcy's Law, things that are really, really important. Everyone has the right to come to court and to feel a sense of security. There's no absolute security anywhere, but this puts us a little bit further. To that end, one of the things that was hard was to recruit people to work in this capacity because, as you know, it was tough to recruit people in many different aspects of the workforce. But at the end of the day, my goal was January 1st of 2025 to implement it. And it unfortunately did not start until February 25, but it's there. We have 4 individuals. We are so blessed. We have 4 individuals that are running basically a checkpoint. It's at the entryway of the court where you put your stuff down. It's a metal detector. We don't have an x-ray machine. We may at some point, but I mean, we just don't right now. They're highly costly, so it's one thing at a time. So we have a retired officer, Officer Ahern from Wadsworth Police Department, a retired U.S. Marshal who actually mans up the federal court in Cleveland. We have a canine unit, that retired officer from Medina, and we have also a retired sheriff's deputy who is the main person who actually used to work security for Medina. But all these individuals that we have working for the court all combined to make like one full-time person. They combine their schedule. They're all part-time. They all kind of really enjoy it, and they all have big ties to our city because they all live here, right? They're all from Wadsworth, and so they're very close, and they really enjoy it, and I just feel a sense of security for everyone. I think that was a big deal for me. When I started, I just really wanted to do it. It was a bit of a juggle to get everything done, but I'm really happy to report, and I hope you guys are happy to hear. I really do, that it's more secure, that we've looked at those things and that we've tried to strengthen everything. And it's worked out pretty well. They've actually helped in a lot of different ways. Like that, I told you guys about the texting and driving time. They helped really kind of manage the people. Also, I have them present for sentencings too. people are okay in sentencing, but some people could get very upset because they may have to go to jail. And so you never know what people are going to do, how they're going to act, right? So they are armed security officers, and they'll have a secondary weapon very soon. We're doing the finalization of the OC spray, not taser, just an OC spray. I didn't really publish a whole lot of that because I think in publishing a lot of it, I felt like, you know, I had a concern when I was running, but I certainly didn't want to highlight something I was concerned about because you just never know. And so I'm happy to report on it. Is there, I think we're getting kind of close. I didn't know if there's anything else.
Thank you, Judge Lewis. Let's give her a round of applause.
Did I fill my
I can
time?
tell we all learned so much, and we so appreciate your time here today. And thank you all for coming. I also want to thank the Wadsworth Older Adults Foundation and the Soprema Cafe for the wonderful refreshments today. And like she said, she'll be around for a few minutes. Have a great day. Thank you again, Judge Lewis.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, everybody.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.